the dark, kindle the spark in me.
Everybody, welcome to a new episode of Flicker. Today, as we keep going through Jesus' teachings in the Sermon on the Mount, I want to pose a question to you, a sort of thought experiment. What would happen if you had convinced yourself that every morning you needed to snap your fingers in order to make the sun stay out all day? Could you imagine thinking that? Could you imagine maybe getting yourself into the habit of every morning when I wake up, I get dressed, take my shower, brush my teeth, and snap my fingers, and what do you know, every day I do it, the sun stays out all day. You could fool yourself into thinking that it's your snapping of your finger that makes the sun come out, that makes the sun keep going. You could fool yourself into thinking that you were the one who was creating life and light and warmth for everybody. Because every morning, if you keep doing it, when you know the sun keeps shining, you're going to fool yourself into thinking you're the reason it happens. And then what happens when, say, one day you oversleep and you're in a rush and you forget to snap your fingers? Well, now you're wondering, oh my goodness, is the sun going to fall out of the sky because I forgot to snap my fingers at the right time of the day? I didn't do my part. Is the world going to come apart? Now, obviously, we all know better. We don't have that kind of magical thinking about the sun and snapping our fingers. We know snapping doesn't make it come back into existence. But we do end up having a kind of magical thinking about how the world around us works, and I think we tend to assume that we've got more power than we actually have. And then we worry when we don't do the things we think make our lives happen. Let me offer you a little more depth here. Jesus says in this next part of the Sermon on the Mount, words that are actually pretty well known, pretty famous among Jesus' teachings. Jesus says, first, he says, look at the grass around you. Look at the lilies of the field. They're the most beautiful things. They're clothed in more glory than even good old King Solomon back in his heyday. But the grass of the field is there today, and it's mown down tomorrow and thrown into the fire and burned as fuel tomorrow. They don't worry about what they've got, but my goodness, God clothes them with such beauty, and flowers don't have to worry about where their clothes are going to come from. And Jesus goes on further. He says, think about the birds, right? The birds, they don't have day jobs. They don't spin cloth. They don't have to work. And yet God feeds them and clothes them and gives them all they need. They don't have to worry about their mortgage payments or getting a little bit of extra money on the side with a side job. They simply trust that their needs will be taken care of. And indeed, God provides for them, for the grass of the field, for the flowers, for the birds. God provides for them day by day by day by day. And in fact, even without them worrying about it, even without them doing anything to make it happen, God has made a world where there is abundance, where flowers burst into glorious color, where birds are able to make a life without having day jobs or earning a paycheck. And it would be foolish to think that birds will only eat if they go to work somewhere, or that flowers will only earn their beautiful colors if they do something to make it happen. So Jesus then turns to us and says, so why are you and I worrying? Why are we worrying? What kind of clothes am I going to have? What kind of food am I going to have? Jesus says, because God's made a world where there's enough. God's made a world where your needs will be provided for. There's enough. And I don't have to worry, which leads to hoarding, which leads to jealousy, which leads to bitterness, and I have to take what you have. I have to be afraid there's not going to be enough to go around. Jesus said, look, if God provides ample food for the birds, if God provides glorious beauty and color for the flowers that are here today and gone tomorrow, aren't you, who are worth even a whole lot more than birds, aren't you going to be safe in God's hands? You don't need to worry, Jesus says. Sometimes I think we assume the only reason we have things is that I made it happen. It's sort of like we live in this world that I snap my finger and that's what makes the sunshine come out. That's not true. God's made a world where there's sunshine. God's made a world where the sun, as we said earlier, looking in Matthew chapter 5, where God sends the sunshine on the well-behaved and on stinkers alike, on the just and on the unjust, on the righteous and on the ungrateful as well. This is part of how God runs things. God's economy is one of overwhelming generosity. And sometimes I like to imagine, well, no, the reason that I've got good things is because I earned them, I worked for them. And I have a job, I do work. but I think I'm giving myself too much credit. I think sometimes I fall into this trap of thinking I make all these good things happen in the world and in my life, and it's all my achievement, my accomplishment, sort of like I'm assuming because I snap my finger, I'm making the sun appear in the sky or stay up. And Jesus says, no, you know what? It's more how God's made the world. The sun will be there apart from my snapping it into existence. And if I sort of fool myself into thinking it's my snapping that makes the sun happen, well, then I'm certainly going to be plagued with worry on the day I oversleep and forget to snap my finger. But my goodness, how arrogant, really, to think that it's only my achievements, my accomplishments that make it happen. The fact that I get daily bread, the fact that I live in a world where there is abundance, the fact that I'm given another breath, these are things I didn't earn. And no matter how hard I work or how lazy I am, no matter how early I wake up or if I oversleep, the gifts and the blessings of creation are something God gives generously, and it doesn't depend on me having to do something, earn something, snap my finger, say the right word, pray the right prayer. These are gifts of a generous God, not things I make happen with my magical thinking. Part of the beauty of how birds do it is birds don't have magical thinking. Birds don't think they are accomplishing the universe's continued existence. Birds don't think, oh, I better get to my job or else the world will disappear. No, birds simply trust. Flowers simply receive the good gifts of God. We're the ones who import all these other layers of I have to make it happen. It's my accomplishment. It's my doing it that makes it happen. It just ain't so. Maybe today I could be free both from the burden of worry and some of the burden of arrogance, of assuming that it's my achievements that make the world happen, that make there be abundance or goodness, which also allows me to look down on other people who don't have what I have because I can assume, oh, well, you must not have done something right. You must be the bad person, rather than maybe I've been hoarding what God has given to me in abundance. Maybe today's a day for us to take some bird lessons, to pay attention, listen, watch for the birds around you, and notice how they are utterly free without thinking that they have to make the universe continue to exist. That they don't live in a system of having to earn their daily bread, but these things are given to them by a generous God, and they are free in the midst of all that. Maybe you and I could be free as well, free from worry, free from the burden of arrogant assumption that we're the center of the universe, and then free to open our hands to share as well as to receive. Join us for more conversation next time here on Flickr.